Continuing on with the Clone Wars, I hopped on over to the next arc in the list, the Younglings. Starting with Season 5, Episode 6, The Gathering. The episode opens up with a little explanation of what's going on in the galaxy at this point. The Clone War is wreaking havoc across all systems, the Jedi numbers are dwindling, and younglings are getting harder to come by. And then the narrator says when a youngling is located, they're taken to the Jedi Temple and told that their true family is now the Jedi Order. And the big test before a Jedi's path can truly begin is known as the Gathering, which is what this episode is named. Kinda seems like Hell Week in a way. Okay, maybe it's just the narrator's choice of words, but the whole "this is now your true family" thing is pretty creepy. The Clone Wars and even the prequels did a good job showing the faults, hypocrisy, heroism, and the somewhat cultist mentality of the Jedi and their followers, and the idea of taking kids who have a perceived special talent, potentially against their family's wishes maybe, and telling them that an organization is now their real family is super culty and super weird. I really hope this is further addressed in the series later down the line, either to be less creepy than what I'm thinking, or to be further shown as a weird-ass practice. So a bunch of younglings are at the top of their class and are chosen to take part in the Gathering, with Ahsoka being their instructor. The Gathering is a test, and Ahsoka says it's time for the younglings to build their own lightsaber. Right off the bat, this episode kind of feels like an 80s friendship movie to me, like The Goonies or Stand By Me. I really hope this entire arc has that vibe. We'll see. So the younglings and Ahsoka land on a super cold planet next to the Game of Thrones ice wall. They all have to combine their powers to open up the gate. When they do, they enter a temple of sorts where Yoda is sitting. Yoda has a line that I really liked. He says, quote, "The Force made physical a Jedi is," close quote. In Yoda's little speech, he tells the younglings that it's time to build their own lightsaber, but first, they have to harvest their own crystal in the crystal cave. So the younglings go in, and when night falls, the door freezes back over. The Rodian younglings ask Ahsoka how long they're going to be in there for, and Ahsoka says 1 rotation. I love this little simple description and explanation. Saying 1 day isn't really clear. Every planet, moon, everything has its own day-night cycle. So saying 1 rotation boils it down to kind of a simpler concept. I don't know why I like this tiny little moment so much. So far, I like the concept of this episode. Younglings participating in demanding training, a test of sorts, but I've never been a big fan of kyber crystals. Crystals in science fiction and fantasy have been done a trillion times, and whenever I think of crystals, I think of kind of uninventive fantasy or science fiction. Where does the power come from? A power crystal? It's never done anything for me, and it's always felt super goofy. The amulet, the diamond, the crystal, the stone, the gem. Honestly, whenever these tropes come up in video games, movies, or shows, I tend to kind of sink down in my seat and think, really? Really? What you came up with is what thousands of other people came up with before you? And I know kyber crystals were in some of the earliest versions of Star Wars scripts, but that doesn't change anything. Anyway, I think I talked about this in my last Vader comic video. Didn't I? Oh well, I'm off track again. So the kids go into the ice cave. The Twi'lek kid seems to be the smart, analytical, calculating one in the bunch, who knows how to use technology. He says that a rotation on this planet compared to what they're used to on theirs is 19 days. So this kind of moment reminded me even more of those fun kids movies that we all watched when we grew up. You have the selfish dude, the geeky kid, the compassionate one, the scaredy cat. Everyone in the group kind of has their own identity. It's fun. So they all split up and go into 3 different doors, 2 and 2 and 1 and 1. When a crystal glows, it can only be seen by the person it calls to. I think that's how it was described. One kid can see the crystal and the other kids can't. So they have to find their specific one. One kid comes out of the cave with what he thinks is a crystal. It turns out to be just some ice. He's the cocky kid, seemingly selfish kid. If I had to guess, he'll do something to redeem his attitude to the audience, either at the end of this episode or at the end of the arc. All of the kids are getting impatient and frustrated. Some can't find and have no idea how to find their specific crystal. Some kids see what they think to be their crystal but don't know how to get to it. In a way, a lot of the crystals that are in front of their respective youngling seem to be projecting the youngling's fear or what they can't overcome, their individual shortcomings being an obstacle to overcome to obtain the crystal. So the door is freezing shut, 2 younglings remain inside, but they're able to make it out, and that's pretty much the episode. Yoda says they've individually learned lessons about patience, trust, selflessness, that kind of stuff. I was honestly disappointed with this episode. I don't often use the word boring, but I thought this episode was boring. I was hoping for teamwork and problem solving. Instead, we pretty much watched a handful of younglings wander around in a cave with not much excitement or expository dialogue looking for their crystal. I was really excited for this episode because I saw huge potential to turn an arc into The Sandlot or something like that, but it really fell short for me. That being said, there are still 3 episodes left in this arc, and maybe it'll blossom into something that I love. I guess I'll wait and see. On to the next episode. HelloGreedo, out.